For more on Bhutan's tourism industry, let's bring in Damcho Rinzin, who's the Chief Tourism Officer, Department of Tourism, as well as CNA correspondent Saksit Sasombat in Bangkok. Well, thanks for joining us. My first question to you, Mr. Damcho. As China's neighbor, your country right now seems to be struggling to try and revive its tourism industry, at least to what it was like pre-COVID. Is there this urgent need to revisit the daily tourism tax, which I believe is $100 for adults and $50 for children?
Thank you. A very good afternoon from the Thimphu, the capital city of Bhutan. And thank you, CNA, of course, having a beautiful program just before that. So as our Prime Minister said, there's no two ways about it. The tourism policy is all about high value, low volume. And of course, we really have to give them a balanced experience to, of course, our visitors, tourists coming to Bhutan, where they have this very immersive experience. And at the same time, I think we don't really generate negative impact to our environment and culture. So having said that, I think $100 for now, it's actually a very good way of balancing the country's need in terms of tourism and then being able to give a good experience to people coming into Bhutan. Bhutan is looking at attracting conscious travelers who feel the need to be part of the destination, who feel the need of contributing to a country like Bhutan. So that is the goal of Bhutan. So having said that, I think even though we need more tourists, we had about 300,000, a little over 300,000 pre-COVID. Our target going forward is about 300,000. We did 100,000 last year. So of course we need more number, but not at the cost of environmental negative impact, culture negative impact, and most importantly, at the cost of not giving a good experience to tourists. So that is what we are looking at in terms of the tourism policy for Bhutan.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Damcho, that you can't sacrifice nature. Saksit, when you spoke to the Prime Minister of Bhutan and he gave you that tourism quota, which is set at 300,000, when you proceeded, speaking to him, did he actually say that this figure is based on realistic expectations? And when do you think they're going to hit that number?
Well, I mean, if we take the pre-pandemic numbers of 350,000, that was the peak, as we have pointed out in my report before that was the peak of the tourism numbers, and that is we are seeing similar patterns like here in Thailand, for example, where it also hit its peak of almost 40 million, of course, different dimensions, obviously, of 40 million tourists here in Thailand. Both countries have hit that peak pre-pandemic, and after the pandemic now, today they are trying to get back to these numbers. But as opposed to Thailand, the question in Bhutan is that whether or not this 300,000, that is sufficient enough, especially with the tourist levy that we talked about, is going to be enough to sustain the growth and also the status quo that they have, or that are they going to have to increase it? But for now, at least, that 300 is a goal that they are aiming to reach, and also as well as the $100 per day per person levy as well, that is also going to be put in place as well. And as also, again, that I mentioned in my report with that, it used to be a lot more expensive. It used to be twice as much, but now that they have halved it in order to get more tourists back. So there are many considerations that they are trying to see here. And again, that, a word that we have heard a lot this past week, and that we are going to hear a lot more in this week about our special reports for Bhutan is balance. And this is something that they are striking with that, and that also means where they are putting their priorities. So they are putting their priorities about conserving their nature and conserving their culture, and weighing it against the influx of tourists. So this is the considerations that is I guess not unique to Bhutan as well. But Mr. Damcho, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but Mr. Damcho, there are the most popular destinations in Bhutan. They are limited to a couple of places like Thimphu, the capital, Paro, where the main airport is, Punakha, also a little bit further away. But have you, in your role as the Chief Tourism Officer, have you identified other places in the country where it could be the next tourist destination? Is there actually a need to have more tourist places than the ones that I've listed up?
Sorry, I can't hear.
I'll pick up from there, Mr. Damcho. Basically, Saksit was just trying to ask you, aside from the few places that we all know about, like Paro and Thimphu, Punakha, all these places, what are some of the other places in your country that you think have the potential to be promoted as new places to visit? And I guess, what do we need to do more to spread tourism around the country?
This is a very, very important question. Thank you for this question. So Bhutan has, of course, we're trying to take tourism to central part of the country, eastern part of the country, southern part of the country, beautiful villages, of course, traditional textiles, nature, biodiversity, everything is so beautiful out there. Of course, the capital being a bit more crowded, but other parts of the country is so beautiful. I mean, very traditional. We have a lot of festivals happening there, other events happening there. So one of the things that we are working on is, of course, increasing the accessibility within Bhutan. So soon we'll have 2 more helicopters coming in, so people can take helicopter rides. The roads are being widened. There's domestic flights happening. So there's going to be, of course, the connectivity is one important thing. And then from 2 years from now, the Gelifu Mindfulness City will have a big international airport, which will play a very important role in spreading tourism to other parts of the country. And also the country is looking at 1 or 2 more entry points, land entry points from Eastern Bhutan, especially Eastern Bhutan, so that we can spread people to other parts of the country. At the moment, you can only fly to Paro International Airport, which is located in the western part of Bhutan, and then you either drive or you take domestic air or helicopter. So that is the only possibility at the moment. But soon it's going to open one, of course, from Eastern Bhutan, where we can take people to other parts of the country. So, of course, the country has a lot to offer in eastern part, southern part, beautiful landscapes. I know the story of Yeti. We have had people wanting to come into Yeti tours. So that's there as well. Red Panda, of course, biodiversity, culture-wise, textiles and festivals. So people really, and then also the other thing that we are looking at is, of course, the village experience through farm stays. So farm stays are being promoted as an experience. And we have tourists who love staying in farmhouses. They enjoy their farm activities. They like the opportunity to mingle with Bhutanese people. So these are there, and the accessibility is very key for us to spread tourist and tourism numbers to other parts of the country.
Mr. Damcho, it sounds incredibly exciting that, you're getting the infrastructure in place. And in terms of, when all they're building that infrastructure, I mean, obviously it costs a certain amount. And we do know that Bhutan's tourism industry, you do rely heavily on Indian visitors for once, at about 70% or so. But just give us a sense of your neighbor China, right? I mean, China is flexing also its economic muscle in the region. Would you say that, yes. I mean, can Bhutan, afford to ignore the giant next door?
We are not ignoring anybody. Everybody is welcome to visit Bhutan as long as they pay $100, the sustainable development fee. So Bhutan is open to everybody. So in fact, we have Chinese tourists come in from China. So we are open to all countries. And also, you're right, India, it's one of the biggest market for us as next door, just across the border. And if you're really looking at tourist numbers, I mean, we don't have to look far. So India plays a very important role. In fact, for many years, India has been the top source market for us. Of course, we are looking at diversifying and having other countries come and visit us, including China, of course. So everybody is welcome to Bhutan as a tourist, of course. And it's our responsibility to welcome and, provide a very memorable and hospitable experience
but I guess, Mr.
countries from other countries.
I was trying to allude to the fact that maybe investment from China, I mean, is that something that your country will be open to?
So in terms of investment, there are investment already happening in the sector, especially in the hotel sector. So we allow FDI investment in 3, 4, and 5-star hotels. So these are there, and also tourism activities. So countries can invest in tourism activities there, not particularly for one country, but it's open based on the of course the FDI rules and regulations that we have in our country. But so people can really come and invest in hotel 4 and 5-star, and then tourism activities.
Well, Saksit, let's bring you in here now. Can you just help us understand how does Bhutan's approach to sustainable tourism per se, including its levy, compared to some of the other strategies employed by other countries to manage their own influx of tourists?
Well, I mean, it really depends like where this money is going to. In the case of Bhutan, it already says in the name, sustainable development fee. According to what we have been told, that money goes directly to benefit projects in Bhutan, to not only for people but also for the environment as well, because especially the environmental conservation of that country, that is one of their flagship policies. It's not unique. It's not really unique that Bhutan is charging a levy or some sort of fee in order to stem the tide against the influx of tourism. I mean, just recently, the Italian city of Venice, for example, they're starting to charge a fee of €5 per day per person as well, because their city is simply overrun by tourists. And there's a cautionary tale that we are seeing in the past couple of years now, the cautionary tale of over-tourism, that infrastructures and also cities that are in some cases century-old cannot really stem against the tide of people coming in anymore. And there's something has to be done, either restriction, either charging money in order to build a fund in order to repair. Even here in Thailand, where it's really dependent on its tourism, there's always been the talk of charging some sort of arrival fee or tourism fee, call it what you may. Most recently, there was the idea that they wanted to charge 300 baht that goes into a insurance or health fund for tourists that may or may not have gotten unlucky and have gotten in an accident and need to pay their hospital and medical bills. But that idea, as far as we have heard, has been pushed aside. And then, especially here in Thailand, we are seeing, I said earlier that the peak was at almost 40 million. That is the goal that this current government here is aiming again. But the question is at what cost, especially since even though Thailand is a much bigger country than Bhutan, and also a country that has a lot more infrastructure around the country to spread them around. But, sometimes it feels like that is already getting too much. Now, Mr. Damcho, I'm going to try again. Let's see if you can hear me as well. We have mentioned before, and especially in yesterday's report as well, that Bhutan is suffering a brain drain and also a shortage of labor. How is that affecting the tourism industry?
Yes, Sasik, this is a very important question. So we have lost quite a few people to other countries. But it is impacting the tourism industry. One of the things that we are looking at, of course, like I mentioned earlier, it's a farm stays where we train and certify the village homestays to really welcome tourists. And of course, we also work with a special group of people called the Tesups, a project initiated by His Majesty the King in guiding. So we are looking at different sections of the society to help them come and help tourism. The tourism revival is on track for us as far as we're concerned. I think there are more people interested to come to Bhutan. So that also attracts people from other sectors of the industry. And then, of course, there is our office is planning to really go strong on capacity, offering opportunities for people who really want to come and visit, who really want to serve tourists who will come and visit Bhutan. The other thing that we want to do, I think initially, earlier we mentioned about how do we spread tourism to other parts of the country. So our plan, of course, to do it immediately is to really train people in other parts of the country, especially east, central, and south, where we get very few number of tourists. So we train these people to welcome tourists, whether it's homestays, whether it's in guiding, whether it's in river rafting, whether it's in biodiversity conservation, and we involve people in parks. We involve people in other agencies. So this is how we are working as a tourism industry. And when we started this new brand, the Bhutan Believe, we told our people that every Bhutanese is a stakeholder of the tourism industry. So in that sense, we're trying to get everybody on board and, of course, be able to help tourism industry in whatever way they can. And we need their help when we are looking at getting in 300,000 tourists to Bhutan. So this is what we are looking at in terms of how we try and get people be part of tourism industry.
All right, and you can add me and Saksit +2 to hit your 300,000 target. Well, thank you so very much, Damcho Rinzin, Chief Tourism Officer, Department of Tourism, as well as our CNA correspondent Saksit Sasombat in Bangkok for that report. Thanks so very much.